4. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The fourth principle embodies the truth that everything has its pair of opposites. Everything has two poles and exists in a state of duality. But the true nature of this principle is that opposites are the same, only varying in degree. A clear example for this is the concept of hot and cold, both being temperature, varying only in degree, and that there is no clear crossover moment when hot stops being hot and starts being cold, and vice versa, with no absolutes on either end. The same can be said of light and darkness, hard and soft, big or small, and even spirit and matter. All are merely our perceptions of the degree, and the principle of polarity exists to explain these paradoxes. One Hermetic axiom related to this principle says, to destroy an undesirable rate of mental vibration, put into operation the principle of polarity and concentrate upon the opposite pole to that which you desire to suppress. Kill out the undesirable by changing its polarity. In order to apply this in your life, you must understand that anything can be changed. Your lower self can be transformed into your higher self. An empty bank account can be transformed into a full one. Weakness can be transformed into strength. They are all varying degrees of the same thing that is under your direct control. A lesson drawn from this principle teaches us that all things in our lives have an opposite, and that the resulting contrast is part of what gives our interpretations meaning. For example, without knowing what lacks feel like, it is difficult to focus on and appreciate abundance. The polarity of life's experiences helps us to avoid taking things for granted. One practice in your everyday life is to prompt yourself to reflect on contrasts that boost your vibration. For example, for every bad or difficult thing you go through, challenge yourself to remember at least one good thing. Then notice how your appreciation of the latter is made more potent by having faced previous challenges. In addition, realize that everything that doesn't work well for you helps to point the way towards its opposite, the thing that will work for you. 5. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Nature and life have a rhythm to it. Your breath has a rhythm. The tides of the oceans have a rhythm. The economy has a rhythm. They all move in an order of action and reaction, advance and retreat, rising and falling, and of course, manifests in our mental states. To be able to use this, we must be aware of this principle and not be bound to an eternal struggle of highs and lows in life. Most people totally succumb to the principle of rhythm and have no control of their mental state. They believe this is normal and is outside their awareness to think different. We must be aware that things we lose will come back, either with the same form or with different form, and that things we own now will disappear later. Everything in the universe, the earth, and your life are affected by cycles, which continue to repeat themselves until you reach an understanding as to what these cycles are trying to show you. When you become aware of such tide-like cycles, which influence your life experiences, you will gain valuable insight into yourself as you transcend the influence of such cycles. Through heightened awareness gained by understanding this principle, you can experience transcendental states of consciousness to rise above the swing of the pendulum. Rhythm will have an effect on you one way or another, but with awareness you can use it to propel you forward and ride it back to recovery. All people who experience self-mastery do this to some degree, but those who exert their will upon this principle are able to act from a place of purpose as opposed to letting the pendulum swing them into reactivity. Whatever your endeavor may be, keep focused on your outcome and remain as positive as you can, no matter how far back the tide pulls you. Keep your focus on the shore in front of you and not on the tide pulling you back. The tide must come back in with time, and your efforts will be rewarded when the rhythm of the tide starts its opposite motion again. In time and with awareness and practice, you will transcend this universal law, and your determination will be rewarded as the backward movements of the tide become less negative in how they affect you and hold you back. You will essentially be raising your vibration higher and higher until you can manifest the reality you desire with relative ease, no matter what negative times may be pulling you back. 6. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The principle of cause and effect describes the way in which all of our actions and experiences relate to other events. In other words, every action instigates a reaction, and nothing should be viewed in isolation. In addition, there is no such thing as pure luck or chance. There is a reason for everything that happens to you. What you reap is what you sow. The seeds that you plant right now, you will harvest later. Simple example of this is, if you are in poor health, it is a result of poor diet or lack of exercise. Is your business unsuccessful? A result of poor work ethic. All your actions add up and are creating the life you have currently. Most people are at the effect of the world, not the cause. They are subject to the effect of their thoughts, moods, desires, emotions, other people, and the environment. Successful people learn how to become the cause and master their own reality. If you understand the consequences of your actions, then you can choose what actions you are going to take. You can choose what actions to take, but in so doing, you also choose the consequences that follow. An application of this law is by emulating people that have achieved what you want in life. Find out what they did, how they thought, what beliefs they had about life. We are in an age where there is an abundance of resources from whom you can learn from. You need to apply the law of cause and effect and take massive action on them. If you follow this, you can achieve the results that you wish. 7. The principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle embodies the fact that both the masculine and the feminine exist in all things, not just in sex, but in the creative nature of all things, on all planes. In harmony with the principle of correspondence, this means that the masculine and feminine exist not only in the physical plane, but also the mental and the spiritual as well. The principle of gender plays a role in all things: generation, creation, and regeneration. Nothing can come into being without the use of this principle. Everything has a yin and yang. On the physical plane, each person has a male or female physical body. However, psychologically, each person is androgynous, with male and female qualities. Among the outward expressions of the feminine qualities are love, patience, intuition, and gentleness. And masculine qualities are power, self-reliance, logic, and intellect. Within every woman lies all the qualities of a man, and within every man lies all the qualities of a woman. To be a complete being, one must balance the expression of their masculine and feminine qualities, and live in harmony with themselves and their environment. Have you ever felt like you were so caught up in the future and the fantasy of your desires that you never took the time to do what was necessary to experience them? Too much masculine energy without enough feminine presence can lead to unhealthy fantasy and disillusionment. To choose the middle path between these extremes of the present feminine and the future-driven masculine, and seek balance in all things, is the key to using all 7 Hermetic principles to full effect and achieving lasting self-mastery. To apply this, we must learn to balance and integrate both sides of us, and as you do so, you will get closer and closer to self-mastery. The feminine and masculine must work together to achieve harmony, as each on their own can be destructive. This was a brief trip to the 7 Hermetic laws. Remember to remind yourself of these principles at every occasion. Use them to sharpen your will, develop self-mastery, and create the experiences that you choose in your life without compromise. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art.
Thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Join our spiritual community by clicking the subscribe button. If you found value on this video, please share it. Have a magnificent rest of the day.